Hi, my name is Suzanne, and I'm your host for the IEEE EMC Society podcast, the podcast to discuss interesting topics on electromagnetic compatibility to our technical community. In this issue, we will be talking about the upcoming 2021 joint IEEE International Symposium on Electromagnetic Compatibility, Signal and Power Integrity, and EMC Europe. I have invited some guest speakers to share information with you. Samuel Connor will be talking about technical sessions. Frank Sabath informs us about the Ask the Experts panel. Jacob Dixon will tell us about workshops and experiments. Bob Scully shares information about experiments and demos. Christine Blair will speak about the Women in Engineering event. And Patrick DeRoy will be talking about the Young Professionals and the EMC and SIPI Trivia Event. All the links will be made available in the show notes. Hi Sam, you're Technical Program Co-Chair for the 2021 joint IEEE International Symposium on Electromagnetic Compatibility, Signal and Power Integrity, and EMC Europe.
Hi Suzanne, thank you for having me on the podcast. It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Sam, for being my guest on this podcast and explaining what attendees can expect from this year's technical program. So please let the listeners know what are the technical sessions about.
Sure. Yeah, very good. So we've got a very full program this year. I think with the pandemic, people have had maybe more time to think about the research they've had going on to document their results into papers. And so we have a very healthy technical program this year featuring 198 workshop tutorial presentations and 218 technical papers, 30 special session papers, and 11 experiments and demonstrations. So as full a technical program as I think we've had in a number of years. And as always, these cover a broad array of topics that our technical committee and special committees focus on. We've identified some common threads, things of particular interest to EMC Europe, things like transportation, EMC, automotive, intentional EMI and EMP effects, lightning, things like that. So we've set up a few tracks within the program that highlight things that fall under those broader categories. But in general, we have also, all the basics, power and signal integrity, of course. Seems to be a lot of interest in power electronics and the conducted emissions and other issues associated with switch mode power supplies. That's always prevalent. And then there's the classical things around EMC measurements and shielding, grounding, the typical things you would expect at an EMC related symposium. And so, I'm pretty excited about the breadth of topics and the depth of some of the papers that I've looked at.
Wow, that really sounds a lot and very interesting topic-wise. What can attendees expect from this year's technical sessions?
Yeah, so again, and not only do we have a good breadth covered, I also see they're at different levels as well. So some of the workshops and tutorials take on more of an educational or foundational basic level. So people new to the field or just coming on first job, maybe coming right out of school, they could jump in at that level and start learning more about EMC, power and signal integrity at a fundamentals level. But then we have some very deep technical talks focused on the academic research, really on the cutting edge of new materials and shielding methodologies, metamaterials, new test methods like, well, it's not really new, but reverberation chambers has always been a hot topic, and some of the ways we can look at the statistics captured there and use that to gain insight into shielding of objects that are inside another enclosure. So, so really a range of depth to the various talks as well. So, wherever you are in your career journey, there's going to be some papers for you.
Wow, that's really great to have that variety. So when do the technical sessions run?
So the workshops and tutorials will be the week of 2 through 6 August, and the technical papers and special sessions will be the following week, which is 9 through 13 August. And the experiments and demos will be streamable on demand either of those weeks. So rather than putting in specific slots, you can access those anytime. For each of the talks, they're going to be done what's called a simu-live presentation. So they've been pre-recorded. They will stream at a specific time that's indicated in the program, and then they'll be available on demand from there on through the end of September with a full registration. So if you, for whatever reason, can't make a particular talk when it's simu-live broadcast, you can come back later and watch that later on demand. Following each of the presentations, so a slight difference from last year's symposium, which was also virtual, and this one will go into a live Zoom meeting for question and answer. So last time they collected questions, I believe, in a chat during the stream. This one, you can put them into a chat as well, but you can also save your questions, go into that live Zoom meeting and ask that question live of the various speakers who will be on in that Zoom meeting. So that's something new we're trying this year. We hope that goes well and allows some of that natural question and answer back and forth that we used to have with the in-person symposia.
Wow, that's really cool. That sort of gives the impression of, the ability, like real chat and real conversation going on. That's fun.
That's right. Our session chairs and a volunteer will be helping to moderate those Zoom meetings. So we'll try to keep the technical difficulties to a minimum, and assuming people can keep good internet connections and audio connections, it should go well.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And one last question: where can listeners find further information about the schedule and themes and the speakers' information?
Yes, very good question, very important. If you go to the Symposium website, which is emc2021.emcss.org, there's a subpage for the advanced program. And if you go in there, it's got it broken up into the individual components of the program. So workshops and tutorials, technical papers, special sessions. As you drill down in there, you'll get the full program day by day, time by time, at least at the session level. There's a fair amount of detail in there. And because it's on the website, we're keeping it up to date live. We're also in the process right now working on the final program. So over the next couple of weeks, we will start to see the final program emerge, and you'll get, more details yet on who the individual authors are and the times and everything else. So you can get started now, start planning out the ones you want to try to catch live. And again, more details will be emerging over the next couple of weeks as we get that final program pushed out.
Wow, cool. Thank you for all the information, Sam.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And if there are other questions, we've got an email address set up for the symposium. Feel free to send one there. Send one to me directly. We'll get you the answer, and we're looking forward to seeing everyone virtually and at the start of August, in about a month from now.
Yeah, exactly. So see you at the symposium. Thank you, Sam.
You're welcome.
Hi, Frank.
Hi, Susanne.
Thank you for being my guest on this podcast episode, explaining what attendees can expect from this year's Ask the Expert sessions. Please let the listeners know, what are the Ask the Experts about?
First of all, I thank you for being here and giving me the opportunity to explain this format. We do a little bit more innovative. Usually in symposia, we have presentations and then some discussions, and it's mainly about the topic of the presentation. In this Ask the Expert, we do something totally different. We invite 4 or 5 experts in a dedicated EMC area, and they are prepared to answer questions that are asked by the participants. So the participants can ask their question and get an answer or advice, and going into the discussion on that topic. So that's a format, Ask the Experts.
Wow, that sounds very interesting. So what can attendees expect from these Ask the Expert sessions then?
Simple explained. They can expect to get answers on problems they are concerned about, or problems they're just facing in their everyday work. So this year we choose 4 areas, starting with lightning, going over power electronic EMC, military EMC, and modeling of input-output buffers. And due to we invited experts in these areas. So if the attendees check in, they're free to ask their question or type the questions, and the experts try to come up with the appropriate answer.
Mm-hmm. So this is during the virtual symposium as well. I guess it is a virtual platform.
Yes, it is a virtual platform, but it's not pre-recorded, it's live. So we have a WebEx meeting. And on Monday, for example, from 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we have the expert panel on lightning. And we invited experts like Farhad Rashidi or Robert Cable from Airbus, or Dr. Heidler from the German University of the Federal Armed Forces. So they are well known in that area. On Tuesday, the 3rd of August, we have the panel on power electronics. And again, we have a set of outstanding experts there. If you are interested in military EMC, Wednesday, same time, 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. Will be your time. And let me check on Thursday, 5th of August, 1:30 to 2:30, we have experts there on input-output buffer information specification. And we have invited for this as we have the IBIS Summit in conjunction with our conference. So it's the first time we have this outstanding experts with us and prepared to answer questions from the audience.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that really sounds interesting.
It is usually very interesting. So normally it starts with 1 or 2 questions, and then it goes out into deep discussions, and the 1 hour is really running away.
I imagine. So where can interested listeners find further information about the schedule, the themes, and the speakers? We do have all the information available on the web page for the joint symposium. And if they go to technical program, and the Ask the Expert is part of the technical program. And there they can find all the information on which experts are available at which time. All the 4 panelists are available for a whole hour. So it's no need to go to a specific time to have a specific expert. We have them available for the whole hour. And often if you ask a question, you get answer and advice from more than one expert. It sounds like that's a place to go to get deep information.
And current information on the problem that you are facing. So you get information from experts, and hopefully the answer helps you doing your everyday work. And in the past years, it was very overcrowded, and we had that in the exhibition area. And we tried this year in a virtual format, but I'm quite sure that the quality will be the same, and that we will receive questions from all over the world, as we invited experts from all over the world.
That really is something we should visit during the symposium. Thank you very much, Frank, for introducing the Ask the Expert sessions and panels to our listeners.
It was my pleasure to chat about this with you.
Hi, Jacob.
Hi, Suzanne. Thanks for inviting me today.
Thank you very much for being my guest on this podcast, explaining what attendees can expect from this year's workshop and tutorial sessions. And please let the listeners know, what are the workshop and tutorials about?
Sure. So the workshops and tutorials are put together by industry experts and people with a lot of experience in their fields. And they recognize that they need a half day or a whole day of content, and they have connections in their fields, and they can reach out and get speakers for. So, for example, we have a lot of automotive experts, and we have a whole week worth of workshops and tutorials just on that one topic. And there are many other topics that I'd like to talk about here in a little bit, such as we have an education week, a whole week of rooms set up dedicated to learning the basics of EMC and how to do EMC testing. We also have quite a few on modeling and simulation, as well as high energy magnetic pulse and high power electromagnetics, as well as several for military, emerging technologies such as 5G, over-the-air testing, wireless, reverb chambers, and for those who maybe want to learn how to get into consulting, there's a workshop for that as well.
Wow, that's quite a lot, I guess, what attendees can expect from these workshop and tutorial sessions. So it's a variety of different themes and topics to pick and choose from, it looks like.
That's right. So there's 8 different tracks over the week that you can choose. So there will be 8 sessions you can join, and whatever topic looks interesting to you, you can jump into it or jump out of it. It's up to you. It's just like attending an in-person conference where you choose the room you go into. We're trying to model it that way. Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's great. So who should attend? Is this only open for registered attendees who paid the whole package, or is it available via a guest pass as well? Who can attend to that meetings?
Sure. So those you have to sign up for the conference, and there is an entry fee associated with that. However, what that gets you is recording and playback access to these as well. So like I said, there's 8 concurrent tracks going on at once. But unlike an in-person conference, if you miss one or there's 2 going on and you can't attend one, you can go back and play that recording. So you don't have to miss any content that you'd like to see.
Wow, that's great. Even for international guests, like I'm located in Germany, so I can play the recording when I don't make it in the time where the live session will be. So that's a great thing.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So can you tell the listeners as well, when do they run?
Yes, so they run, they're based on Eastern time zone. And there are 4-hour slots in the morning and 4-hour slots in the afternoon. So it's going to be, roughly that 9 to 5 time range for the American Eastern time zone. And then those recordings are available 24 hours a day.
Wow, thank you. And where can listeners find further information about the schedule and themes and speakers?
Yes, so it's available on the EMC+SIPI conference website, which is www.emc2021.emcss.org, or you could just Google EMC Conference 2021 and it'll get you there too. On that page, you'll see an advanced program button. It's the second one from the left, and it will give you a more detailed list of speakers and what's planned for this week.
Great. Thank you very much, Jacob, for explaining the workshop and tutorial session with the special topics to our listeners. I'm looking forward to see you there at the virtual symposium.
Thank you. I look forward to seeing you there as well.
Hi, Bob. Thank you for being my guest in this podcast episode, explaining what attendees can expect from this year's experiments and demos.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me to this podcast. I'd like to also mention my colleagues who are assisting me in this activity for the symposium. Robert Voigt, Nick Moonen, and Jay Diepenbrock also are working very hard to make sure that this is successful.
Oh, great. Thank you all for your support for the symposium. So, Bob, please let the listeners know, what are the experiments and demos about?
All right. Well, we have 11 experiments and demonstrations this symposium. 10 of those are hardware experiments and demonstrations, and 1 is for software. We have presenters from the United States, from Spain, France, the Netherlands, and from Denmark. 3 of our presenters are veteran presenters in the fact that they have presented in previous symposia. One of our presentations discusses remote test control for some radiated emissions measurements, very interesting. And another discusses highly effective use of near-field probes and near-field scanners. I could go through the whole list here, but probably it's best for folks to just go to the website. The summarized content of each of the experiments is listed there, along with the names of the presenters. And the location from which they originate.
So that's interesting. So they got the information where to find the schedule and the speakers. Does experiments and demo, do they run throughout all the time, or is there a week in particular that is reserved?
And my understanding right now is the final schedule is not finalized, but I expect that these pre-recorded events will be scattered about throughout the period of time that the symposium is running. These, as I understand it, also will be on demand for some period of time afterward. And there will be 2 Q&A sessions, one approximately halfway through, and then another towards the end of the symposium itself. So there'll be an opportunity for folks to write down any questions that they might have, and then at each of these Q&A sessions, they'll have an opportunity to actually interact with a live, warm, breathing person, and they can ask their questions and hopefully get the answers that they are seeking.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and just one last question. Who can attend and how?
In order to access the experiments and demonstrations, one would have to be registered for the remaining sessions, the technical sessions and workshops, tutorials, and so forth. However, that said, these experiments and demonstrations are attractive, I think, to many, many different people across the discipline community. And each year that we have these presentations, they're very aimed at particular topics. For example, one of our experiments is common mode conducted susceptibility testing using a simplified approach. We have debugging EMI EMC problems using near-field techniques, phase resolved in-house near-field scanner applications, and frequency and time domain calibration of vibrating intrinsic reverberation chambers. So as you can tell perhaps from just the titles themselves, there is a broad spectrum of application here where you have practitioners and experts in the field that are going through these setups and talking about how the mathematics connect with these setups and what's the right approach, how can you most effectively perform some of this testing. So extremely valuable. And the most important part of this is that individuals who go to these experiments and demonstrations will get as close to a hands-on experiences as possible, particularly in a remote sense, where you can see someone actually physically doing what they're talking about. And that really helps a great deal, I think.
I imagine it does. Well, thank you very much, Rob, for explaining what attendees can expect from this year's experiments and demo session during the 2021 Symposium.
You're very welcome, and thank you again for the opportunity to speak. And again, just so I can say I did it, mention my colleagues, Robert Voigt, Nick Moonen, and Jay Diepenbrock.
Thank you. Hi, Christine. Thank you for being my guest on this podcast episode, explaining what attendees can expect from this year's Women in Engineering event.
Yeah, thanks, Suzanne. It's really my pleasure to be here and talk about the upcoming event.
That's great. So what is the Women in Engineering event about? Can you explain to our listeners?
Yeah, so the IEEE Women in Engineering Group is a global network of IEEE members and volunteers that are dedicated to promoting women engineers and scientists, as well as to inspiring girls around the world to follow their academic interests in a career in engineering and science. So the goal of Women in Engineering is to facilitate the recruitment and retention of women in technical disciplines globally. We envision a vibrant community of IEEE women and men collectively using their diverse talents to innovate for the benefit of humanity. And that's really why we have events such as this to bring everyone together. So we'll meet at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on August 12th as part of the 2021 Symposium, and for a networking and panel event, and to share experiences. This year's Women in Engineering event during the virtual symposium will be an interesting panel discussion about the future of leadership.
Wow, that really sounds interesting. So what can attendees expect from this year's event then?
Yeah, attendees will hear stories of career success and strategies for how to achieve meaningful progress in STEM careers. They'll also have the opportunity to ask panelists questions and hear about how to be prepared for the future as a leader. As well, you'll have the opportunity to connect with other attendees.
Wow, that's cool. So who should be attending then?
Really anyone who's interested in self-development, boosting their own career, or helping others succeed.
Okay, and where can listeners find further information about the speakers and, well, about the event itself?
So all the necessary information is on the Symposium website. It's under the Advanced Program, Social Events, Women in Engineering.
Well, thank you for sharing the information about the Women in Engineering event during the Symposium to our listeners. Looking forward to meeting you there.
Thanks, Suzanne. See you there.
Hi, Patrick.
Hi, Susanna.
You're EMC Society's representative to the IEEE Young Professionals. Thank you for being my guest on this podcast episode. Could you inform the listeners what the YP is about?
Sure, yeah, thank you so much for having me. And YP stands for Young Professionals, which is technically an affinity group of the IEEE. And it's a group of IEEE members and volunteers who have graduated from their first professional degree within the past 15 years. So if you are an IEEE member or an EMC Society member already, and you have this qualification, you basically are a YP. And, it's an international community, of course. And basically, it's a community whose members are interested in elevating their career, expanding their global network, and really just connecting with their peers and fellow engineers locally, giving back to their community. And of course, since it encompasses all members from recent university grads to experienced professionals and entrepreneurs, the group, is really highly diverse in what it has to offer.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's really interesting. So what is the fancy thing about this year's Symposium event?
Right, so at the EMC Symposium this year, the Young Professionals group within EMC Society is putting on a trivia event. This will be all things EMC plus SIPI, so you can come and test your EMC plus SIPI knowledge, network and socialize virtually, of course, with EMC Society members and peers. And there will also be some learning about the opportunities that are available to YPs in the EMC Society as well. Of course, the event, it's open to everyone, but obviously encouraged for YPs such as recent grads and working professionals within that 15 years of their degree. It's a great way to come connect with fellow engineers. If you're new to the conference or new to the society, great way to get to know others, and relationships, that you make within the EMC Society at these types of events can always lead to future collaborations on different projects, and will provide you valuable contacts when you need a friend to bounce ideas off of, perhaps. So, it should be a lot of fun. It will be held online over WebEx, and we'll be awarding prizes to the top trivia contestants. So, some good prizes to seek.
Wow, that really sounds interesting, and it sounds like a lot of fun. So where and when is it?
So it will be over WebEx, and there's a link on the Symposium website. So it's Friday, August 13th from 9 o'clock to 10:30 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And basically you can attend with a free guest pass registration to the symposium, even if you've not got a full registration. And all the information is on the symposium website. If you navigate to advanced program and social events, you'll find the EMC+SIPI Trivia Young Professionals event there.
Cool. So mark your calendars, we are all set, and see you there at the event.
Yes, looking forward to it.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you.
I thank my guests very much for participating in this episode, sharing the hottest topics, themes, and talks during the 2021 joint IEEE International Symposium on Electromagnetic Compatibility, Signal and Power Integrity, and EMC Europe. I am really looking forward to meeting you all in the virtual event. Other links will be made available in the show notes. And I would like to thank you for listening to the IEEE EMC Society podcast. If you wish to learn more about EMC and receive the latest input from the science and the industry, stay tuned and subscribe to the podcast. I am wishing you a great day, and stay tuned for the next episode of the IEEE EMC Society podcast.